Is altering human genetics ethically wrong? Yes, it is, but I will get back to that. CRISPR is a new technology which essentially goes into the DNA, changes the DNA, and replaces it with the desired result. The idea of CRISPR is to get rid of genetic diseases. As scientist Craig Venter says, the question is when, not if. In 2015, scientist Hu Kuo used CRISPR on two twins, Lulu and Nina. He attempted to eliminate the CCR5 gene, which essentially controls the HIV immunity. After 6 months of pregnancy, no one knew what happened to Lulu or Nina. Today, they are both healthy, but still susceptible to HIV, so Hu Kuo failed at his experiment. Altering human genetics is illegal in China, and therefore he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. While in prison, authorities have found documentation of 2 more genetically modified children. It turns out he had tricked scientists into inseminating mothers without consent. The 3rd child has been born, but there's no documentation of the 4th. For this, he got fined 3 million yuan, which translates to just under $500,000 USD. In biomedical science, there are 4 main principles of ethics. These include autonomy, non-maleficence, justice, and beneficence. Autonomy essentially means the person's freedom to choose what is right for them. In CRISPR, the technology will be applied in embryo, and therefore the babies cannot make decisions for themselves. Although you could argue the point is modifying for the babies and has their best interests at heart, it's still not ethical because they don't have a say in it. Non-maleficence means do no harm. This is not guaranteed. With CRISPR being so new, we don't know the short or long-term effects on it, and therefore there's also the danger in scientists messing up while applying CRISPR. Justice means treat and provide care for all patients fairly. This cannot be guaranteed because we don't know how much CRISPR will cost. A quote from the CRISPR democracy says, "The research community acknowledges the unfair distribution of health resources, but tends to shrug it off as someone else's business." Keeping this in mind, who's to say that CRISPR won't affect economic classes the same? Although scientist George Churon wants to make GM available to all income classes, he doesn't actually specify how to do so. Finally, beneficence, meaning the choices that are made for a patient with the intent to do good. If the CRISPR technology is used for editing genes, then that is made for good because they're trying to edit the genome to make the kid healthier. But when scientists take it a step further to make designer babies, that's when it goes against beneficence. There are a few appealing factors into making designer babies. The babies will be smarter, more athletic, more creative, less impulsive, and a lower cost to manage overall. Examples being healthcare and insurance will be lower. When it comes down to it, GM babies are not ethical. It is not ethical to pick out every attribute for a baby without consent. And then as a parent, you would watch it grow up and excel, but knowing that the characteristics aren't actually theirs because they're chosen for the baby. In society, we'll see the difference between the higher income GM babies and the lower and middle income normal babies. If you look at prices now, IVF is $20,000, surrogacy at its cheapest is $30,000 and can shoot up to $50,000. So how much will genetic modification be? There's a standard of beauty in society today. We compare ourselves to social media. In 5 to 10 years from now, people will be comparing themselves to the humans who are born to be perfect and born to be flawless. How will mental health be affected? Altering human genetics is ethically wrong because it does not follow autonomy, non-maleficence, and justice. By only following 3 of the 4 ethical principles of biomedical science, it cannot be deemed ethical. So until gene altering can be prepared in adults who have consent and be available to all incomes, it cannot be deemed ethical.
All right, thanks, sir. What information did you need that you weren't able to find or locate?
Yeah, so I originally wanted to do the ethical lens with the economic lens, and I touched on that a little bit, but I couldn't find like how much CRISPR had cost and the specific details of it. Although we had that economics archive, it wasn't specifically what I was looking for.
Okay, thank you very much. What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are those questions important?
So in the TED Talk, in the artifacts, scientist Paul Kefner talked about the conventions that were used and the conventions that he was going to and speaking out about the ethical distributions of GM, but he never actually spoke about the results that came from that, and I couldn't find anything on that, and I think that'd be really interesting to follow up on.
Okay, thank you. Another